Scars don't hurt because they bleed, my friends. They hurt because they remind me. That's where we begin. People think rejection is what breaks you, but no, rejection is only a bruise. It fades. What they never see coming is the silence you choose afterward. That silence doesn't fade. It sticks to them like a scar, a mark they carry everywhere, a reminder of the moment they thought they could walk away from you without consequence. Listen carefully, because this one will hit deep. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not giving up. Silence is not you hiding in the corner, licking your wounds. No, silence is the storm that clears the air, the scar that never lets them forget. Before we dive into this journey, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me till the end, because what you're about to realize will shift how you see rejection forever. Hey folks, imagine this. You give someone your favorite jacket on a freezing night. They smirk, toss it aside, and say, "I don't need it." So you shrug, pick it back up, and walk away. At first, they feel fine, brave, strong. But as the night grows colder, as the wind starts biting, they begin to shiver. Suddenly they remember the warmth they once held, but so carelessly dismissed. That jacket. That was your presence. That warmth. That was your voice, your care, your loyalty. And the cold they're now shivering in, that's your silence. That's the scar they're left with. You see, people lie to themselves about silence. They say silence means you've quit. They say silence is running away. They say silence means you've lost. But no, my friends, silence is not running. It's rising. It's the decision to say, I won't fight for a seat at a table that was never worthy of me in the first place. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. They expected you to fight, to argue, to post cryptic quotes, to beg for another chance. That's what they're used to. That's what feeds their ego. But instead, you went still. You vanished. You reclaimed your power in silence. And now they can't stand it, because nothing makes people more uncomfortable than the quiet echo of their own choices. Think of it like this. You're at a party, music blasting, people laughing, conversations flowing. Suddenly, the power goes out. Everything stops. No sound, no light, just silence. Everyone freezes. That eerie, unsettling feeling creeps in. That's what your silence does to them. They thought walking away from you would feel like freedom. Instead, it feels like that blackout, a scar on their peace, a reminder of what they lost. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. When they rejected you, they weren't rejecting you. They were rejecting the mirror you held up to their soul. They saw your loyalty, your care, your willingness to stay through storms, and deep down it scared them. Because they weren't ready for something real. So they pushed you away thinking they'd be fine. But now they're realizing you weren't just another person in their life. You were the anchor. You were the safe place. You were the calm in their chaos. And without you, their ship is sinking slowly, silently. But I know what you're thinking. If I stay silent, don't I look weak? Don't I look like I don't care? That's the lie your pain tells you, my friend. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is strength, disguised as stillness. Anyone can scream, anyone can argue, but it takes a strong soul to say nothing and let absence do the talking. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." And you chose to be unshakable. You chose dignity. You chose peace. So here's where it gets fun. While they're out there trying to convince the world how happy they are, scrolling through distractions, forcing smiles for cameras, silence keeps tugging at them. It shows up when they least expect it, in a song, in a memory, in the quiet moments before sleep. And suddenly they're reminded of the one thing they can't get back, you. That's why silence is the scar they can't heal, because it follows them everywhere. So right now, I want you to make a vow. Say it with me. Write it in the comments. Silence leaves scars, short, powerful, unforgettable. Let it be your mantra. Let it be your reminder that you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight to be remembered. You just need to stay silent and let time expose the truth. And remember this, your silence is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your strength. Silence leaves scars, my friends. Go ahead, write it down. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what's coming next will open your eyes even more. Number 1. Rejection was a wound, but silence becomes a scar. Time heals wounds, but it never erases scars. Let that sink in for a moment, my friends. Rejection, yes, it hurts like a knife to the chest. It feels sharp, immediate, raw. But here's the truth they never tell you. Rejection is temporary. It bruises, it cuts. But with time, the sting fades. What doesn't fade? What doesn't go away? Your silence. Your silence doesn't just pass through them, it brands them. It becomes the scar they can't cover, can't hide, can't explain away. Imagine this. Someone gets scratched by a thorn. At first it burns, it bleeds. They cry out in pain. But a week later, the cut begins to close. A month later, it's healed. But look closely. What do you see? A thin line across their skin, a mark etched into them forever. That scar doesn't bleed anymore, but it whispers every time they look at it. It reminds them of a choice, a moment, an action they can never undo. That's your silence to them now. It's not a wound that bleeds, it's a scar that lingers. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for them. When they rejected you, they thought it was the end. They thought, okay, I cut this off, I move forward, I'll be fine. They didn't expect silence to be so loud. They didn't expect absence to weigh more than presence. They didn't expect that the real pain wouldn't be the rejection itself, but the quiet that followed. And now the questions start clawing at them in the dark. Why haven't they reached out? Why didn't they fight for me? Why do I feel emptier now than I did before? Did I just lose the one thing that made me whole? Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And my friends, their thoughts are now stained with silence. That scar is permanent because it doesn't exist on their body. It exists in their mind. It's a reminder every time they're alone, every time the phone doesn't light up, every time they scroll back to old conversations they swore didn't matter, every time they lie in bed wondering why the peace they thought they'd find never arrived. But let's break a lie here, because I know what's circling in your mind. You think silence means weakness. You think silence means you lost. You think silence means you weren't good enough to be fought for. That's the biggest trap of rejection, the belief that love must be proven louder, longer, harder. But Epictetus gave us the truth. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. It's not the silence that hurts you, it's what you tell yourself about the silence. You've been taught to believe that silence equals defeat. No, my friend, silence equals power. Think of it this way. Imagine a courtroom. Everyone's shouting, the lawyers, the witnesses, the crowd. Chaos fills the room. But then the judge raises their hand and says nothing. Suddenly the entire room goes quiet. Who had the real power? Not the ones screaming, not the ones pointing fingers. The one who stayed silent, who didn't need to prove, who commanded respect by doing nothing at all. That's what you've done. And that silence is the scar they carry now, because it showed them something they weren't ready to face. You didn't need them to define your worth. Of course, it's not easy. Of course, you'll feel the urge to break it, to send that just checking in text, to see if they're okay, to remind them of the love you gave so freely. That's natural, that's human. But let me ask you, what would that really do? Would it heal you? Or would it just cover their wound while keeping your own open? That's why silence is so hard, because it forces you to sit with your own fear while forcing them to sit with their regret. And trust me, they are sitting with it. Because the scar is not about pain, it's about permanence. They can distract themselves with friends, fill their days with noise, even jump into the arms of someone new. But late at night, when the laughter fades and the noise dies down, they look in the mirror and see it. That mark your silence left. And it whispers, you had something real. You let it go. Think about it. If rejection was final, why do people come back months later? Why do they suddenly check in after you've gone silent? It's because wounds close, but scars itch. And the scar of your silence is something they'll scratch at for years to come. They'll tell themselves stories, they'll justify, they'll even pretend it never mattered. But silence is the kind of scar that doesn't disappear under the makeup of lies. It's always there, beneath the surface, waiting to remind them of what they threw away. Now let's turn the spotlight back to you. Why does this matter? Because you need to see your silence not as surrender, but as strategy. Not as weakness, but as wisdom. You're not hiding, you're healing. You're not defeated, you're disciplined. You're not running, you're rising. And every day you stay silent, you write your worth, not with words, but with presence withheld. That's something they can never take from you. So here's what I want you to do right now. Say this with me. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show the world. Show anyone who ever doubted you. My silence is their scar. 4 words. Powerful. Permanent. Let that be your shield, your sword, your reminder. Because when they look back, when the memories play in their mind, when they try to cover the truth with distractions, that scar will still whisper. And it will whisper your silence louder than their rejection ever did. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The scar is permanent, but wait until you see what happens when they realize no matter what they do, they can't heal it. That's where the story really begins. Number 2, the scar they can't hide in public. What is invisible to the eye is often what weighs the heaviest on the soul. Remember that, my friends, because that's the truth they're living with now. Out in the world, in front of cameras, among friends, in their curated highlight reel of smiling photos and fake laughter, they'll look just fine. Maybe even better than fine. They'll look like rejection was the best decision they ever made, like they're glowing without you. But here's the reality they can't hide. Scars don't show up in selfies. Scars live under the skin, and silence has carved one into them so deep, it follows them wherever they go. Think about it. What's easier? To admit to the world, I pushed away the one person who truly saw me, and now I can't stop regretting it. Or to laugh a little louder, pose with new people, throw filters over the truth, and pretend nothing happened. They choose the second option, of course, but that doesn't erase the scar. It only hides it. And the thing about scars is, they always resurface. Picture this, folks. You're at the beach. Someone tries to cover a scar on their arm with sand. They pat it down, pile more and more on, and for a moment it looks gone. But then the tide comes in. The waves crash, the sand washes away, and there it is again. The scar, exposed, unhealed, undeniable. That's them now. They can pile on distractions, noise, people, work, parties, travel, but eventually the tide of silence always returns. And your absence shows up like that scar that refuses to fade. And here's the part they'll never confess out loud. Every time they smile for a picture, every time they brag about moving on, every time they perform happiness for an audience, there's a whisper inside. Why do I still feel empty? Why didn't silence set me free? Why do I feel chained to what I walked away from? They thought rejection was their fresh start. Instead, your silence became the ink stain they can't wash out. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and whether they admit it or not, their thoughts are dyed with you now. Not because you begged, not because you fought, but because you didn't. Because your silence became the backdrop of their life, and every performance of joy now sits against that canvas. They can't hide it from themselves, even if they try to hide it from the world. But let's break the lie. Society feeds you. People tell you, if they look happy, they must be happy. Wrong. Social media is not truth. It's theater. Public laughter isn't always joy. Sometimes it's camouflage. They're not thriving without you. They're auditioning for everyone else, hoping if they play the role long enough, they'll start to believe it. But the scar always betrays them, because no matter how loud they laugh, silence screams louder when they're alone. Here's what's haunting them: your words, the small ones, the unnoticed ones. When you said, "Get home safe," when you checked on them without being asked, when you reminded them they mattered on days they didn't even see it themselves. Those weren't just words. They were a net, a safety, a constant. Now that you've gone silent, those words replay not as background noise, but as echoes. And the cruel twist? They replay louder now that they're gone. The scar is not your voice, but the absence of it. That's what cuts deepest. Think about this metaphor. Imagine a city where a fountain once flowed in the middle of the square. People walked by every day, barely noticing it, taking for granted the sound of water, the peace it created. Then one day the fountain stops. At first they don't care. Maybe they even feel relieved. It's quiet. But soon the silence grows heavy. People notice the absence. The square feels different, emptier. And suddenly they realize that fountain wasn't just background. It was the heartbeat of the place. That's you. They thought you were just noise, replaceable, ordinary. But now that you're gone, silence has become the scar in their square, reminding them every single day that something vital is missing. But why is this so hard for you? Because when you see them out there smiling, posting, living, a part of you wonders, am I the only one hurting? Did my silence mean nothing? Are they really free while I'm here carrying the weight? My friend, that's the illusion of performance. Never confuse the mask with the truth. The scar is there even if you can't see it. And scars don't fade because of selfies. They linger, especially the scars left by silence. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And right now, they crave the comfort they once shrugged off. They crave the steady presence they thought they didn't need. They crave the peace your silence once carried when you were present. And that craving is poverty, no matter how rich their life looks on the outside. So here's the motivation I want you to take with you. Don't be fooled by the theater. Don't let their mask trick you into breaking your silence, because every day you stay quiet, the scar grows deeper. Every day you withhold your voice, the echo gets louder. Every day you resist the urge to step back into the role they took for granted, you remind them that scars don't fade just because they want them to. They chose this. They carved this. Now they must live with it. And this is where your power truly shines. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to argue with their mask. You don't need to chase or explain. Your silence is the proof. It's the scar. It's the unshakable evidence that you are no longer their comfort zone. And that scar, it's not your burden. It's their reminder. So right now, my friends, let's raise this together. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments so the world knows, so you know. I don't need to be seen to be remembered. That's your affirmation today. 4 simple words that shatter the lie that your value depends on their recognition. Because you, my friend, are unforgettable, and they, no matter how hard they try, will never be able to hide the scar your silence left behind. Stay with me, because we're only getting started. That scar they carry in silence. It's about to grow louder, sharper, and harder to ignore. And the next part, oh, that's when their own thoughts become the prison they can't escape. You won't want to miss it. Number 3, when your voice disappears, their thoughts grow loud. In silence, the loudest echoes are born. Remember this, my friends, because silence is not emptiness. Silence is not a void. Silence is not nothingness. Silence is a stage, and on that stage, their thoughts begin to perform plays they never wanted to watch. When your voice disappears, when your laughter, your check-ins, your late night "did you eat" and "get home safe" fade into quiet, their mind doesn't rest. It roars. And the irony? They thought rejection would free them from your voice. They thought silence would be their relief. Instead, silence has turned their own thoughts against them. Imagine it like this, folks. You've been living next to a river your whole life. The sound of rushing water is always there. It's so constant that you stop noticing it. It becomes background. But then one day, the river dries up. No sound, no flow, just silence. Suddenly the quiet is unbearable. You can't sleep, you can't focus, you can't relax. Why? Because the absence of that sound makes you realize how much you depended on it to feel at peace. That's what your silence has become for them. They never noticed your voice until it was gone. Now it's missing, and their mind is filling that absence with regret. They replay your words in their head, not the big declarations, not the "I love you" moments. No, it's the small, ordinary things, the way you noticed they were tired before anyone else did, the way you asked about their day without needing a reason, the way you said goodnight like it actually mattered. Those words seemed so small back then, so routine. Now those same words echo in their mind like bells in an empty cathedral. And here's the part they can't stand. They'll never hear them again, not from you. Silence has closed the door, and their thoughts are pounding on it, begging for it to open. And let's be honest, my friends, this is where your own doubts creep in. You check their social media, you see them smiling, and you ask yourself, if my silence is so powerful, why do they look so happy? Why aren't they breaking like I am? Did they even care? That's the lie silence plays on your own wounds. Don't confuse their performance with their truth. Because silence doesn't torture them in public, it tortures them in private. The show is for the world. The scars, the echoes, the sleepless nights. That's what happens when the curtain falls. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. But here's the twist. They don't have power over their mind right now. Your silence has hijacked it. It has turned into a constant whisper in the background of their life. They'll try to drown it out with noise, with company, with distractions. But silence doesn't disappear when you drown it. It just waits. And the moment they're alone, in the shower, in the car, in bed at night, it rises again. That's when they hear you, not through your words, but through the echo of the words you're no longer speaking. Now, why does this happen? Why does silence grow so loud? Because human beings can't stand unfinished patterns. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, when the brain can't reconcile the story it's telling with the reality it's living. They told themselves you'd always be there. They told themselves they could reject you and still have your attention, your loyalty, your orbit. But when you went silent, that pattern shattered. Their brain is now desperate to close the loop, to solve the riddle, to answer the unspoken question, why aren't they calling? Did I matter at all? Did I misjudge them? Did I just lose something I can never replace? And those questions don't vanish, they get louder. Think of it like this. Imagine a song playing on the radio. Suddenly it cuts off mid-chorus. No ending, no resolution. You can't get it out of your head because your brain is wired to want completion. That's what your silence has done. It cut off the song they thought would always play in the background of their life. And now they hum the unfinished tune in their mind, over and over, searching for the ending that will never come. But I know you. I know what you're thinking. If their thoughts are so loud, why don't they just reach out? Why don't they just admit it? Why don't they just say they miss me? Because pride is a prison. Because ego is a chain. They'd rather let their thoughts scream in silence than confess to themselves, or to you, that they made a mistake. That scar you left is easier to hide than to heal, and so they sit with it. They post, they laugh, they pretend. But every day those thoughts grow louder, and silence keeps feeding them. Epictetus reminded us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And what did you choose, my friends? You chose dignity, you chose discipline, you chose silence. And because of that, they are now the ones trapped in the noise of their own regret. They are the ones losing sleep, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out why the peace they thought they'd gain from rejection has turned into torment. But here's where it becomes difficult for you. Silence doesn't only echo in their head, it echoes in yours too. You start to question, did my silence really matter? Should I have said more? Should I have fought harder? That's natural. But let me tell you the truth, closure isn't given, it's chosen. You don't need their confession to validate your worth. You don't need their words to prove your value. Your silence is the closure. Their thoughts are the consequence, and the scar is the evidence. So let me motivate you right now. Don't break the silence just to hear what you already know. Don't trade your peace for their temporary validation. You don't need to remind them of your worth. Life will. Silence already has. And every day that passes, every night they lie awake, every morning they wake up to the echo of what you used to say. That's the scar reminding them. You are not forgotten. You are unforgettable. Say this with me, my friends. Say it with your whole chest. Write it in the comments. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. I speak loudest in silence, because that's the truth. Your silence has become their scar, their echo, their haunting. And the louder their world looks on the outside, the louder your silence is on the inside. Stay with me, because this is only the beginning. If their thoughts are loud now, wait until regret shows up like an uninvited guest at their door. That's when silence stops being just a scar and starts becoming their constant companion. And that, my friends, is where the story gets even deeper. Number 4. Regret arrives like an unwanted guest. Regret doesn't knock before it enters. It just walks in and makes itself at home. That's the truth most people run from, my friends. At first, rejection feels powerful. It feels clean, simple, liberating. They think, I made the right choice. I cut them off. I'm free. And for a short while, maybe they even believe it. They post the selfies, they laugh with friends, they convince themselves they've upgraded their life by removing you. But regret isn't in a hurry. Regret doesn't rush in with sirens and flashing lights. Regret waits, and when the room is quiet, when the noise has died down, that's when it shows up. Imagine this, folks. A person throws out an old coat. It's worn. It's familiar. It doesn't seem special anymore. They toss it aside like it means nothing. At first, they don't miss it. They buy something new, something shiny. But then one night, the cold creeps in. They reach for warmth, and it's not there. They think about that coat, not because it was fancy, but because it was theirs. It was the one that always kept them warm without fail. That's when regret arrives, and once it shows up, it doesn't leave. That's exactly how your silence creeps in on them. They thought rejection would give them peace. Instead, it gave them emptiness. And slowly, that emptiness starts whispering questions they can't escape. Why do I feel lonelier now? Why doesn't this new attention feel the same? Did I throw away the one thing that was real? Did I mistake loyalty for weakness? Those questions are the voice of regret, And the scar your silence left behind, make sure those questions echo louder every day. Seneca once said, "Regret is the past, crippling the present." And that's exactly what's happening to them. Their present moments aren't clean anymore, they're stained. Every time they smile, the memory of what they pushed away creeps into the corner of their mind. Every time they try to enjoy themselves, regret pulls at the edges of their joy. They thought rejection would free them, but what they're realizing is this: they didn't run from you, they ran straight into regret's arms. But why didn't they see it before? Why does regret always come late? Because people confuse relief with freedom. At first, rejection feels like relief. They feel lighter. They feel unchained. They mistake that sensation for happiness. But relief is temporary. Relief is shallow. Freedom is deeper. And what they find, slowly, painfully, is that true freedom doesn't come from cutting off someone who cared. It comes from recognizing value and building with it. They missed that chance, and now they're chained, not to you, but to the weight of their own decision. Picture this metaphor. Someone lights a candle in a dark room. The room fills with warmth and glow, but they blow it out, thinking the flame was unnecessary. At first, their eyes adjust. They think, "I can handle the dark." But as hours pass, the darkness grows heavier, thicker. They start to stumble, they start to shiver, and then they remember that candle. They remember the light they dismissed, but it's too late. The wick is cold, the flame is gone. That's regret, my friends, and your silence is the darkness they can't handle anymore. Now, let me break a lie that often poisons your mind. You think, if they regret it, doesn't that mean I should go back? Doesn't that mean they see my worth now? That's the trap. Regret is not the same as change. Regret is an emotion. Change is action. They can regret losing you and still not know how to love you. They can regret pushing you away and still not be capable of valuing you. Don't confuse their scar with your responsibility. Their regret is not your job to soothe. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes regret is the only teacher people understand. They didn't listen to your words. They didn't value your presence, but silence forced them into a classroom they can't walk out of. And that scar is the chalkboard where regret writes its lessons every single day. They'll learn. Oh yes, they'll learn. But the lesson won't save them from the consequences. Think about it this way. You can hand someone water every day, but if they keep throwing the cup away, eventually they go thirsty. And when thirst sets in, regret teaches them what your words never could. Water was never guaranteed. You were never guaranteed. You were a choice, a blessing, a rare soul they thought they could replace. Now they're thirsty, and all they can taste is the dryness of regret. And here's what's powerful. You don't have to do a thing. Silence is doing the work for you. Silence doesn't beg. Silence doesn't explain. Silence doesn't try to prove. Silence just stands there like a mirror, forcing them to see the reflection of their own mistake. And the longer you stay silent, the clearer that reflection becomes. That's why regret grows heavier, not lighter. It's not fading for them, it's multiplying. But I know it's hard. I know you wonder, if they regret it, shouldn't I give them another chance? Shouldn't I heal the wound? No, my friend. That's where you must rise above the lie that your love must always be the bandage. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to let someone sit with their pain, because only then do they learn the weight of their choices. If you return too soon, you steal the lesson from them. You rob them of the scar that was meant to change them. So stand firm. Don't break the silence just because regret is tugging at your empathy. Don't step back into the fire that already burned you once. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. You've chosen to be unshakable. You've chosen to be dignified. You've chosen to be free. Let regret stay where it belongs, with them. Because here's the beauty: while regret cripples them, silence frees you. While they're stuck in yesterday, you're building today. While they're haunted by the past, you're walking into the future. That's the difference between regret and resilience. One looks back, the other moves forward. And you, my friend, are moving forward. So right now, I want you to anchor this truth. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments. Show the world. Show yourself. Show anyone who ever doubted you. Their regret is not my responsibility. 4 words that cut chains, 4 words that set you free. Let it echo in your chest. Let it be your shield when your empathy tries to pull you back into their pain. Because what's coming next is even deeper. Regret is heavy, yes, but wait until they try to cover that scar with replacements, with distractions, with noise. That's when the truth hits hardest, because the scar your silence left can't be erased, no matter how hard they try. Stay with me, because the unraveling has only just begun. Number 5. Replacement never heals the scar. You can buy a new mask, but it won't change the face underneath. That's the reality they're facing now, my friends. After silence has already begun its slow, steady work, regret creeps in. And when regret becomes unbearable, when the scar of your absence begins to itch in ways they can't soothe, they try to cover it. They try to replace you. They think a new person, a new face, a new distraction will heal the scar your silence left. But scars aren't erased with substitutes. They are reminders, permanent marks. And no matter how many people they turn to, no matter how loud the laughter or how pretty the pictures, your silence is still there, beneath it all. Imagine this: someone shatters a priceless vase. Instead of mourning what's been broken, instead of learning the weight of what they lost, they grab a cheap imitation from the store and put it on the same shelf. From a distance it looks fine. Visitors might even say, "That's beautiful." But every time the owner walks past, every time they glance at that shelf, they know it's not the same. They know the original is gone, and nothing will ever carry the same weight, the same history, the same irreplaceable beauty. That's what they're trying to do now. They're filling the shelf of their life with cheap imitations, hoping no one notices the scar your silence left. But they notice. Deep down, they always notice. And here's the trap you must avoid believing. When you see them posting with someone new, when you hear about their rebound, when you catch a glimpse of their life painted in smiles, you'll feel that familiar sting. You'll think, did I mean nothing? Have I been replaced? Did my silence not leave a mark at all? My friends, that's the lie. Because the truth is this: they're not replacing you, they're running from you. They're running from the scar that your silence carved into them, and they're hoping a distraction will make it fade. But scars don't fade with noise. They become more noticeable when you try to hide them. Think of it like painting over a cracked wall. Fresh paint might make it look good for a week, maybe even a month, but eventually the cracks bleed through. Eventually the wall reveals the truth beneath the cover, and that's what's happening to them now. They can paint over their scar with someone else's attention, but sooner or later the cracks will show. Because connection like yours doesn't come twice. Let me break another lie here, because I know your mind whispers it late at night. You think, if they can laugh with someone new, maybe they never loved me at all. Maybe I was just ordinary. No, my friend. Ordinary doesn't leave scars. Ordinary doesn't echo in silence. Ordinary doesn't force someone into distraction after distraction to try to erase the memory. What you gave them was depth. What you gave them was rare, and depth cannot be replaced with noise. Picture this metaphor. Someone loses the key to their home. Instead of retracing their steps, instead of cherishing what was lost, they try to carve a new one out of plastic. It fits in the lock, but it never turns. It looks like a key, but it doesn't open the door. That's what they're trying to do now. They're carving new keys out of temporary people, hoping one will unlock the peace they lost. But nothing fits, nothing works. Because you weren't just a key, you were the whole door. And once a door closes with silence, no copy can open it again. And here's where the fun irony hits. They'll smile bigger in pictures now. They'll laugh louder at jokes. They'll make a public show of how happy they are. But why so much effort? Why so much performance? Because they're not celebrating freedom. They're covering scars. They're not replacing you. They're trying to convince themselves that the void you left doesn't exist. But voids can't be filled with counterfeits. They stretch wider the more you deny them. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And that's exactly what they are now. Poor. Not in money, not in status, but in spirit. Because no matter how much more they collect, more people, more parties, more attention, it never feels like enough. The craving itself betrays them. The craving itself is proof of the scar your silence left behind. And let's not lie, this is the hardest phase for you. Watching them flaunt someone new, watching them pretend to thrive, will test your resolve. You'll feel the urge to break silence, to remind them of who you were, to prove that you were irreplaceable. But you don't need to remind them, life already is. Every empty laugh they fake is a reminder. Every forced smile is a reminder. Every new connection that falls flat is a reminder. Your silence is proof enough. You don't need to explain your worth to anyone who threw it away. Here's what they'll never tell anyone. The new person doesn't feel the same. The jokes don't land the same. The conversations don't dig as deep. The comfort isn't as natural. They'll never admit it out loud. But every new moment feels like a comparison. Every laugh feels like an echo. Every embrace feels like a shadow of what once was. Because love, real love, doesn't vanish when you walk out. It lingers like a fingerprint on the soul, and they know it, they feel it, they live with it. But why is this important for you? Because you need to remember, replacement is not about you. It's about them. It's about their fear of facing the silence, their refusal to sit with regret, their desperation to avoid the mirror your absence has forced them to see. They're not running toward someone else. They're running away from themselves, and that's not your burden to carry. So let me motivate you, my friends. Don't let their distractions distract you. Don't let their counterfeits shake you. Don't let their noise drown out your peace, because you are not replaceable. You are not ordinary. You are the flame, the anchor, the one they can't stop comparing everything else to. And the longer you stay silent, the clearer it becomes to them. Right now, I want you to declare this for yourself. Say it. Write it in the comments. Let it echo not just in your heart, but in the world. I cannot be replaced. 4 words that turn scars into strength. 4 words that remind you of who you are. Because while they're out there chasing noise, you're building peace. While they're drowning in distractions, you're rising in dignity. And while they're trying to cover scars, you're becoming untouchable. Stay with me, because this isn't the end. Replacement is only the illusion before the collapse. Sooner or later, the novelty fades, the masks crack, the laughter dies down. And that's when they face the truth. The scar your silence left is permanent. And when the cover-ups fall away, the unraveling begins. And oh, my friends, that unraveling is something they won't be able to escape. Number 6. Silence turns into a mirror they can't face. The truth is like a mirror. Once it's shown, you can't unsee your reflection. Let that settle in, my friends, because this is what your silence has become for them. At first, it was just quiet. At first, they thought it was space. At first, they told themselves they were free. But silence doesn't just sit there passively. Silence transforms. Over time, it becomes a mirror. And when they look into that mirror, what they see is not your weakness, not your desperation, not your chasing. It's their own reflection staring back. Their choices, their mistakes, their arrogance, their loss, and they can't stand it. Imagine this. Someone avoids mirrors because they don't want to see the scar on their face. They get dressed in the dark, they laugh loudly in public, they tell themselves it doesn't exist. But then one day, they're forced to stand in front of a mirror. They can't avoid it. And suddenly, the scar they tried to ignore, the scar they thought was invisible, is staring back at them. That's what your silence does. It doesn't let them run from themselves anymore. It reflects every crack they tried to cover, every flaw they tried to hide, every truth they tried to bury. They thought silence meant you gave up. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought silence meant defeat. But the mirror doesn't lie. The mirror doesn't flatter. The mirror doesn't play games. The mirror shows the truth. And when your silence holds up that mirror, they see exactly who they are without you. That's the scar they can't heal. Not because you're punishing them, not because you're chasing revenge, but because absence reflects more than presence ever could. And here's the part they'll never admit. When you were there, they could project their flaws onto you. They could say, "You're too much, you're too needy, you're too emotional." They could point the finger, shift the blame, make it your problem. But now, with silence, there's no one left to blame. The mirror points back at them, and in that mirror, they see their own cowardice, their own pride, their own inability to hold on to something rare. Silence stripped away their excuses, and all that's left is reflection. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." But here's the problem. Most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want distraction. They want noise to cover the mirror. But silence doesn't offer that. Silence stands like polished glass in the middle of their life, waiting. And when they glance at it, even for a second, they're forced to confront what they lost. Think about it like this. You know those funhouse mirrors at carnivals? They distort your reflection, make you taller, shorter, wider. That's what they had when you were speaking, when you were trying to prove your worth. They could distort reality. They could twist the story. They could say, "I didn't lose much." But silence is not a funhouse mirror. Silence is glass, clear, sharp, unforgiving. It shows the exact outline of the scar, and they can't twist it away. And that's what makes silence so terrifying for them. It's not what you're doing, it's what you're not doing. You're not explaining, you're not apologizing, you're not pleading. And so the mirror doesn't bend, it doesn't move, it doesn't adjust to make them feel better, it just shows them. Every time they check their phone and see nothing, every time they wonder what you're doing and get no answer, every time they feel the quiet stretching between you like a chasm, the mirror whispers, "This is who you are, this is what you chose, this is what you lost." And my friends, don't think this reflection comes only in big moments. No, it sneaks in small ways. They walk past a place you once went together, and the mirror appears. They hear a song you once shared, and the mirror appears. They scroll through old pictures they swore they didn't care about, and the mirror appears. It's relentless. It's everywhere, because silence doesn't just follow them, it surrounds them. It turns ordinary life into a gallery of mirrors, each one reminding them of the truth they don't want to face. But here's where it gets harder for you. When they avoid the mirror, when they distract themselves with noise, when they run into the arms of others, you'll think, maybe they really don't care. Maybe the mirror means nothing to them. Maybe I was never important. That's your pain lying to you. The mirror never lies. The scar is still there. The reflection still haunts them. They may avoid it, but they can't erase it. And the more they run, the more obvious it becomes. Because you can't heal a scar by pretending it doesn't exist. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." That's their prison now. They thought they knew freedom. They thought they knew what life without you would be like. They thought they knew what they wanted. But silence shattered that illusion. The mirror revealed the truth. They didn't lose just anyone. They lost the anchor. They lost the peace. They lost the one person who gave meaning to their chaos. And now they can't unsee it. Let me give you another metaphor because this one is powerful. Imagine a room filled with smoke. When you were present, you were the window cracked open, letting in fresh air. They didn't notice it. They thought it was nothing. But when you left, when silence sealed the window, the smoke thickened. They coughed, they choked, and suddenly they realized they needed that open window all along. Silence has now become that sealed room, and the mirror in the smoke reflects their every regret. And let me tell you something motivating. This is not about revenge. This is not about making them suffer. This is about clarity. Because while they're stuck staring into mirrors they can't face, you're building a life where you don't need mirrors to validate you. You know who you are. You know your worth. You know your silence isn't emptiness. It's discipline, dignity, and direction. So here's what I want you to do right now. Say it with me. Write it in the comments. Show the world. Show yourself. Show anyone who ever doubted you. My silence reflects their truth. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your strength. Because while they're busy avoiding mirrors, you're walking into the light. While they're haunted by scars, you're healing. While they're running from truth, you're embracing it. Stay close, my friends, because what comes next is even more powerful. The mirror is haunting, yes, but wait until their entire foundation begins to crumble. That's when the unraveling starts, and silence doesn't just reflect truth. It shakes their entire world apart, and you'll want to see exactly how that unfolds. Number 7. The unraveling. Peace slips through their fingers. A house built on sand doesn't collapse in the storm. It collapses in the silence after. That's where they are now, my friends. At first, after rejecting you, they strutted like they'd built their house on rock. They thought they were free, thought they were steady, thought they'd gained peace. But silence doesn't storm in with chaos. It creeps in quietly, slowly, unshakably, and little by little their foundation begins to crack. That's what's happening right now. Their world is unraveling, not with noise, but with the silent weight of your absence pressing down on every corner of their life. At first, they thought it was simple. They thought walking away from you would feel like breathing again, like dropping a weight they carried too long. They thought they'd laugh more, feel lighter, live better. But here's the irony. What they thought was the weight was actually the wings. You weren't holding them down. You were the one lifting them up. And now that you're gone, now that your silence fills the space, life doesn't feel lighter. It feels hollow. Their days don't feel free. They feel fragile. Picture this, folks. A sweater begins to unravel. Not all at once, not in a dramatic tear, but with one small thread. At first, it doesn't seem like much, just a loose piece hanging there. They tug at it, thinking it's nothing. But slowly, stitch by stitch, the sweater begins to fall apart until the whole thing is useless. That's what your silence is doing to them now. It started as just a thread, quiet, calm, unspoken. But over time, the stitches of their confidence, their pride, their illusions are coming undone. They can't stop it. They can't patch it. They can only watch it unravel in their own hands. And here's the cruelest part for them. It's not happening in public. It's happening when no one is watching. To the world, they look fine. Better than fine. They're still posting the pictures, still forcing the smiles, still laughing loudly in public spaces. But when the party ends, when the door closes, when the phone is face down and the room is dark, that's when silence walks in. That's when regret curls up next to them. That's when the unraveling begins again, thread by thread. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. But they don't have power over their mind anymore. Your silence broke their illusion of control. Their thoughts run wild, their regrets grow louder, their questions grow heavier. Why aren't they reaching out? Why didn't they fight for me? Why do I feel emptier without them than I did with them? Did I just destroy something I can never rebuild? And because you remain silent, they don't get answers. They get echoes. They get scars. They get unraveling. Think of it like this. Imagine a boat drifting on the water. At first it feels exciting to let go of the anchor. They sail freely, no weight holding them down. But as time passes, the waves grow restless, the current unpredictable, and suddenly they realize the anchor wasn't a burden. The anchor was the only thing keeping them steady. And without it, the boat doesn't sail. It drifts, it wanders, it tips. That's what they're realizing now. You weren't the weight, you were the anchor, and without you, their peace isn't peace at all, it's drift. And here's what makes this phase brutal for them. Every little thing becomes a trigger. A song in the car reminds them of a memory they didn't want to remember. A smell in a store reminds them of the times you were close. A phrase someone else says echoes words you once spoke. And suddenly, silence isn't just outside, it's inside. It's everywhere. They can't escape it. They can't drown it. They can't outrun it. Because silence has become a mirror, and the unraveling has become their reality. But let me flip this to you now, my friends, because this is where your own struggle kicks in. You think, if they're unraveling, should I step in? Should I throw them a rope? Should I remind them of the love I gave? Should I be their comfort again? That's your old self talking, the version of you who thought love meant bleeding for someone else's wounds, the version of you who thought worth meant proving yourself over and over. But that version of you is gone. That version of you was silenced the moment you chose dignity over drama, peace over chaos, silence over noise. Remember this. The unraveling is not your burden. The unraveling is their consequence. You don't owe them comfort for scars they carved themselves. You don't owe them rescue from choices they proudly made. You don't owe them closure when your silence already gave them truth. This is their mirror to face, their sweater to unravel, their boat to drift. And if you interrupt the unraveling, you steal the lesson. You rob them of the weight that was meant to change them. And here's the motivational punch you need to hear. While their world unravels, yours is rebuilding. While their peace slips through their fingers, yours is growing stronger. While they're haunted by silence, you're empowered by it. Because silence doesn't just destroy what's weak, it builds what's strong. It's building you. It's teaching you discipline, self-respect, clarity. It's reminding you that you don't need noise to be noticed. You don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need to chase to be cherished. Let me give you one last metaphor, because this one seals it. Imagine a seed buried underground. From the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. It looks dark, empty, lifeless. But underground, the seed is breaking open, roots are growing, foundations are forming. That's you. You're the seed. Your silence is the soil. While they unravel above the ground, you're building strength beneath it. And one day you'll rise, not as who you were, but as something unshakable, undeniable, unforgettable. So here's your affirmation, my friends. Say it out loud, write it in the comments so it echoes not just here, but in your own heart. Their unraveling is not my burden. 4 words that free you. 4 words that remind you of your strength. 4 words that separate their scar from your rebirth. And before we close this journey, let me ask you, did this message hit you? Did you feel the truth in your chest, the shift in your perspective, the weight of silence as power? If you did, I want you to press that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next truth we unpack together. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's still struggling to see silence, not as weakness, but as strength. Because this is the end of today's journey, but not the end of yours. Your silence is not just their scar, it's your rebirth. And the story of that rebirth is only beginning.